Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open with pirates sailing around the Indian Ocean on their unnamed ship. A winged gargoyle about a foot tall flies overhead with something shiny clutched in its claws. One of the crew shoots at the little homunculus, causing it to drop the gold puzzle piece on deck, where the captain picks it up. Sinbad experiences a vision of a dancing woman, so he turns it into a necklace and wears it all the time, even when he sleeps. The first mate Rachid warns him that it's a bad omen, but Sinbad ignores him, and that night they sail into a storm because he's too busy dreaming of the mysterious hips. There's also a strange man calling out his name and a disturbingly close-up when the captain wakes up to his crew warning him about the storm. Heading straight for certain doom, apparently Sinbad is the only person on board who can steer the ship 30 degrees away from some rocks. They make it through the storm in one piece, and daylight reveals that the winds brought them to the coastal kingdom of Marabia. Sinbad is like a fish and sees someone holding something shiny on the beach, so he leaps overboard and swims ashore. Once there, Sinbad meets the man from his dreams, who turns out to be an evil sorcerer named Koura, who pulls some good sinister faces. He claims that the amulet is his property, so Sinbad pretends to hand it over, but then scares his horse and punches his flunky in the face. Stealing a horse and fleeing from the pursuing magician, Sinbad makes it inside the nearby town, where the guards chase Koura away because he isn't very popular. Sinbad is met by the ruler, who wears a mask over his disfigured face and has another puzzle piece like the one around his neck. The Grand Vizier says that Koura killed their king, burned his face with a fireball, and left his secret chamber all charred up. He takes Sinbad through some ominous hole and reveals that the puzzle piece is one of 3 that leads the way to the Fountain of Destiny. If you throw it in like some kind of wishing well, the fountain rewards you with youth, wealth, and a green screen shield. Fortunately, he's talking to a sailor because Sinbad recognizes a mural as a nautical chart and the puzzle pieces as directions. It leads them all to an unmapped island, so Sinbad makes a copy of the chart when noticing Koura's tiny creature eavesdropping. It's learned everything they know, so the Vizier hits the imp with a well-thrown fastball and the pair try to catch it. By the time Sin gets hold of the little thing, it bursts into a pile of leaves, and Koura has already learned about the location. They'll need to sail to the island immediately, as the sorcerer tasks his loyal servant Achmed with finding the fastest ship in the land. On his way back from the palace, however, Sinbad fights off some henchmen who works for the local pimp. He offers the sailor $400 if he will take his deadbeat son Haroun on an adventure to make a man out of him. Initially refusing, Sinbad changes his mind when noticing the old creep has a slave that looks like the woman of his dreams. Sensing the attraction, he throws her in with the deal like a side of fries, while Margiana just goes along with whatever happens. Now Sinbad has 2 new crew members, one of which needs to be carried on board while the other has no experience outside of knowing how to kneel. Sinbad says that Margiana is a free woman and doesn't have to do that any more than takes the knife that she was about to shank him with. She's still on his ship though, so he orders her to pour him a drink while Rachid enters to alert the captain that they're being followed. Koura has paid some captain to tail Sinbad at an alarmingly close distance, and somehow he's surprised they got caught. By morning, Haroun wakes up and realizes that he's at sea on a journey that's going to take them 3 months to return. Sinbad orders him to sit in the crow's nest for the next 12 weeks and plans a safe route through a dangerous area to lose their pursuers. He tells Margiana that he doesn't know why this guy's chasing them, but it's obvious because you shot his imp and stole his gold. By navigating through a dangerous passage under the cover of a foggy night, Sinbad is able to buy some time because the other captain sails around. To counter this, Koura puts on his prettiest of robes and uses his magic to animate a figurehead on Sinbad's ship. The Lady of Lumber grabs a seaman and tosses him overboard, so more stab at her with a spear and axe, but she's too strong. She breaks through a cabin and steals the map when Sinbad and the rest of the crew arrive with torches to set it ablaze. Koura controls it to pick up a heavy iron harpoon and step back over the edge of the ship so that it can sink to the bottom and escape. It waits until the other ship catches up, then lets go so that it floats to the surface and the evil wizard can retrieve the nautical charts. Koura looks visibly older, so whips up a massive potion with mandrake root and chemicals to resurrect his little gargoyle friend. Homunculus number 2 is ordered to follow Sinbad, who can still navigate to the island from his memory of the stolen map. They arrive at the uncharted island first and go ashore, where an extinct civilization has covered the place with temples and big heads. The imp follows them their whole journey and relays their location once the sailor wizard arrives a few minutes later. Koura tracks Sinbad's crew into a temple where a servant uses the puzzle pieces to summon the Oracle of All Knowledge. Unfortunately, the floating head speaks in riddles, so they only learn that the 3rd puzzle piece and the fountain are somewhere north on the island. He disappears while the Oracle's servant turns into a pile of smoldering ashes like he always wanted. Before they can leave, Koura blows up the entrance, sealing his rivals inside and collapsing the temple on their heads. Everyone survives and notice a small hole to escape in the ceiling, so Sinbad begins to fashion a hookshot out of a broken brazier. Using their baggy clothing to make a rope, Sinbad fires the heavy arrow through the hole, allowing the group a way out. When he's almost at the top, the little homunculus attacks Sinbad, but it's killed by Haroun, who shoots the little guy with an arrow. They all climb out by nightfall and begin heading north, where they see a tribe of locals who've captured Koura and Rachid. The painted green savages take them into the side of a mountain where they worship the six-armed god of death, Kali. A shaman is about to sacrifice the sorcerer, so he uses a bit of magic muttering and vial of pee to animate a statue. He has the idol dance around the room, which is more for his own amusement as the locals are already on their knees. With an army of green men by his side, the sorcerer orders them all to leave while he searches for the third puzzle piece. The pirates arrive to catch the wizard with his hand in the metaphorical cookie jar, so Sinbad challenges him to a fair duel. Of course, this guy doesn't take the deal, so he orders the idol to fight his battle while he runs away to get the tribe. Sinbad takes on Kali and is the only one who doesn't get harmed, as everyone else keeps trying to jump in but always gets slashed away. When their fight moves onto a platform, Haroun pushes the hollow statue off, destroying it and revealing the final puzzle piece. Before they can combine them, Koura returns with the natives, who blame Sinbad for the death of their statue and intend to sacrifice him. Koura leaves with all three puzzle pieces, but Margiana comes to the rescue by displaying an eyeball on her palm. It gets her carried away by the superstitious people and lowered down into a pit featuring the same eyeball painted above a cave. Out comes the one-eyed centaur, who causes Margiana to pass out just by looking at her, so carries her back to its lair. Sinbad tells the vizier to show his burnt face, and this guy is so ugly that he distracts all of the natives enough for them to escape. They lower themselves down into the centaur's nest and split up to find Margiana, who was just dumped in the back somewhere. Koura reaches the entrance to the Fountain of Destiny, where he slips and drops his box of potions, causing the whole supply to explode. Old Butterfingers is forced to use his magic to get inside, but it causes him to grow old and he barely makes it to the fountain. Sinbad finds Margiana rather easily, and they wander over to the fountain, which just so happens to connect to the centaur's cave. He manages to knock a piece of the tablet into the water, restoring his youth like the legend says by the time Sinbad confronts him. Instead of fighting, however, he once again calls on the centaur to protect him from his enemies, so Sinbad battles the mythological creature. Throughout the awkward swings of his sword, Margiana is shown multiple times until a griffin walks out of another cave entrance. It must have beef with the centaur because it takes over from Sinbad and battles in an evenly matched showdown of good and evil. The vizier says that these beings have been battling for eternity until Koura steps out and cuts the bird lion's Achilles. It allows the centaur to destroy the fountain guardian of good, and he looks over at the sorcerer like cheers for the help. It then charges at Sinbad's crew, swiping at them, so the captain leaps on the centaur's back and shanks it like a dozen times. That's all it takes to kill the creature, but Koura throws another piece of the tablet into the fountain. This one gives him what's called the Shield of Darkness, meaning that when he has a duel with Sinbad, parts of the sorcerer begin to disappear. He goes completely invisible once it finishes powering up, and Sinbad must now fight a floating sword inside the fountain. Fortunately, this moron steps into the stream, allowing Sinbad to see his location, and he impales Koura through the heart. He dies, causing the water to run red before reflecting Sinbad dressed like a sultan as part of the third prize. A crown of riches is presented to Sinbad, and he could rule the kingdom with it if he wanted, but chooses to give it to the vizier instead. It causes his mask to dissolve and restore his appearance to what it was like before the evil sorcerer melted it off. The Grand Vizier shows his gratitude for Sinbad, making him the official ruler of the land before they all set sail for home. Margiana questions why he turned down the crown, but Sinbad says because he values freedom and a king's never truly free. The final gag is Haroun asking to be a full-fledged seaman, having proven himself during the battles with the monsters. He slips and falls from the mast, receiving a serious wedgie and getting laughed at by all his fellow seamen. And the movie ends.